Hey everyone, and welcome to another stroke analysis with me, Coach Micah Babel. This is Angela. She's actually the winner of the free stroke analysis that people can win if they sign up on my website for my newsletter. My website is micahbabel.com. One person wins a free stroke analysis each month. So go ahead and sign up there. And of course, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel right here. So let's get started. What I want to do is I want to run Angela's forehand a couple of times here on the left, just a little slower, just to give you a feel for what it is. There we go, and then we'll go into the details. So a couple of things on the fundamentals, Angela, that I really like. You obviously have the right grip. I believe you're in an Eastern forehand grip, and that is exactly what you want to have. So if we go back here, on your take back, you're doing a really good job having the racket face above your wrist on your take back. You do have a good loop. And the first thing that I'm seeing is you have a continually too low of a contact point. However, that could very well be because you're playing on a backboard, it looks like. So that one, I want to be a little careful there to be too harsh about it. But if we're looking at a couple of balls here, so that contact point actually is somewhat okay. It's a little bit below your hip, but I think that really has a lot to do with you hitting on the backboard. So that's another okay one, and you're moving up on the next one. But you see here that that contact point is a little low. So ideally you want your contact point to be a little bit more consistently between hip and shoulder. And I've put you next to Simona Halep because I think she's got a really great forehand, and on the few shots that we have of her here, we can see where she's making contact. So don't have a whole lot of frames on this, but you see that she's making contact between hip and shoulder, and that's exactly where you want it. And of course, she's using her phenomenal footwork. That's why I do like her a lot, to continually have a really a consistent contact point. So here it's a little higher, but again, it's between hip and shoulder. So it doesn't always have to be the same height that you're making contact. It depends a little bit on the incoming ball. So for instance, on the next ball here, you see how she's looking down, and that would tell me that the ball is really deep and does not necessarily come up as high, and she's still managing to keep that around the hip. So that is the one thing that I'm seeing here. The next thing that I want to go into is, ideally, I would like to see a little bit of a deeper unit turn. So what I mean by that is use your left arm a little bit more to bring your entire body around. So if we look at Simona, she does that really well, in addition to a whole lot of other things. But look at her left arm. It's a little higher than yours. It's a little more straight, and yours basically bends here, and you're not using it, to my mind, as a very effective tool to help you in your setup. So I think this is a pretty good comparison here. We see that your racket face is also pointing to us, basically, the viewer. That's perfect. But at the moment when we're having this situation here, you see that Simona is basically looking over her left shoulder, and you would have a ways to go there. So that is in the preparation, the hip and the shoulder. You really want to turn them because that is part of your loading. And if I'm starting to move forward here with Simona, if you look at her outside leg, her back leg here, you see that she's very, very heavily loading off of that one. She is hitting a little bit of a different stance. She's hitting a semi-open stance, whereas you're using a closed stance on most all of them. But you see that she's really coming off of her outside leg. And I think that's where you could do a little bit more in the preparation using your left arm. So if we want to look at Simona one more time here, I'm actually going to flip our perspective here because I think it's easier to see if we do this. So if you're seeing Simona in the furthest take back here of her arm, and this is a position that you're also getting into there. So now you're at the furthest of your take back. You're basically already opening up a little bit, and that is a little bit of a loss of energy to my mind, right? So see if you can get your left arm around a little bit more, just like we see Simona here. This is pretty much perfect again. The next thing that I would like to point out for you is, because of this deeper unit turn, I think she also has a little bit more extension through the ball. So you see she's coming, brushing up to the ball, and when she's finishing, so let's look at the finish here. This is a really good contact point. So you see how far extended her arm is, and that doesn't mean that you're extending your arm and straightening out, but what it means is that you're just having more room between your hand and your body here. So you're not bringing it around quite as quickly, or she's not bringing it around quite as quickly. So you see that difference here. I'm okay with that contact point, but you see here, you barely have any extension. So you're coming around your body really quickly, and I would like to see a little bit more air under your body, under your arm and away from your body, so that you have a higher finish, especially on a ground stroke. If you have a ball where you want to create a sharper angle, you might see this finish a little bit more because you really have to roll over the ball. But I want a little bit more extension here. Right, more air. This here is a little better, but this I think is a pretty good comparison. If I can get that one frame back here. There. So your racket here is coming away. Simona's arm is having more air basically between rib cage, stomach, and that arm here, and you're really tucked in. And I think if you get that deeper unit turn, you create a lot more energy there that will help you actually extend that arm. So you don't necessarily have to force your arm into a more straightened position. So if you're just loading a little heavier, you're creating a lot of energy that will just transfer into the shot a little bit more. And then let's look at the finish here. Seeing here how much air, basically how much room Simona has when she's following through, and her arm finishes away and high, and you're tucking around your chest a little bit. So I think that is the last thing that I want to say there, and that I'm seeing. So you have three things to my mind that you want to work on. Higher contact point a little bit, but again, that could be because you are playing at a backboard and you're just getting different balls there, so I don't want to be too critical on that. But definitely use your left arm a lot more to create that unit turn, to create that deeper loop, and to my mind, that will also then help you with that extension that you want to get through the ball. And what that does is when you extend into the ball, into your contact point a little bit more, is you're staying with the ball a little longer. You're staying basically in the plane of the ball here. And I think the next one, if I'm finding this correctly, is the one where you're basically, because you're tucking it around really quickly, you're getting out of the plane of the ball. And that's why you're framing that ball and it goes up pretty steeply. So again, those are the three things that you can work on. And I'm really glad that you won this, and happy birthday, because tomorrow is your birthday.